So I want to say happy 4th of July to y'all. I want to say happy Independence Day to you all. America will be 242 years old on Wednesday. And that means 242 years ago, 56 very brave people signed a document that said, "We are now independent, separate from Great Britain." Ben Franklin said at that time, "We must indeed all hang together, or most assuredly we shall all hang separately." The last line of the Declaration of Independence, which I did not know this was actually in there, is this: "We mutually pledge each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor." And then they signed it. 51 people were there to sign that day, 5 signed it later. They were a diverse group. There were 24 lawyers and jurists. There were 11 merchants. There were 9 farmers and large plantation owners. They were soft-spoken men, well-dressed, well-educated for the most part. But they signed the Declaration of Independence knowing full well that the penalty would be death by hanging for being traitors if they were captured. Now they had comfy lives. They were doing okay, but they believed in liberty more than hanging on to their comfy lives. So did you ever wonder what happened to those 56 people? I'm going to tell you. 5 of them were captured, but not identified as signers to the Declaration. They were actively involved in the military, and they were captured along with a lot of other people. All 5 were eventually released. Some were tortured, but none of the prisoners was hanged. One man was taken from his bed in the middle of the night, specifically because he had signed the document. 12 had their homes burned and ransacked, many to the ground. 9 died during the 8-year war called the Revolutionary War. Lasted a little over 8 years. One was heavily invested in ships and saw all of his ships taken over by the British, and so he lost his fortune. One wife was imprisoned as a retaliation for her husband signing, but after several months she was released in exchange for some of the British wives who had also been captured and imprisoned. 2 of the men, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, went on to become the 2nd and 3rd presidents of the United States. Ben Franklin lived a long life. He died in 1790 at 84 years old. And John Adams and Thomas Jefferson remarkably died on the same day. I don't know if you know this. July 4th, 1826, on the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. John Adams and Benjamin Franklin died. I did not know that. But how cool was that? So we owe a lot to these 56 men, as well the 50,000 people that died, Americans who died in the Revolutionary War. When I Googled the top 10 revolutions ever, guess where we were? Number 1, the top revolution ever, the greatest revolution ever was the American Revolution. And I believe that. And I believe that based on a statement made from the Austrian philosopher Ivan Illich. This is what Illich said: "Neither revolution nor reformation can ultimately change a society. Rather, you must tell a new, powerful tale, one so pervasive that it sweeps away the old myths and becomes the preferred story, one that is so inclusive that it gathers all the bits of our past and our present into a coherent whole, one that even shines some light into the future so we can take it to the next step." Illich says, if you want to change a society, then you have to tell an alternative story. And that's what happened. The colonists told an alternative story. They said independence was possible. They said self-governing was possible over a monarchy. They said religious freedom is possible. Taxation with representation is possible. And that human rights were given by God and not the government. This is a very different story. That human rights came with birth. Doesn't matter, color, gender, age, any of it. Human rights came with birth. But they also included in their story that they were not just doing this for America, but they were doing it for all of humankind. They were saying, this is the story. We have a better way. The Founding Fathers believed they were giving something to future generations. They believed in what they were doing wholeheartedly. They had lived under the tyranny of an unjust king, somebody that they had watched people be arrested and even killed for their religious beliefs. They had endured all kinds of outrageous taxes without representation, and they had had their voices silenced. So the colonists said, no, we're saying no to that story. We have a better way. Now, I believe that about Unitarian Universalism, that we have a better way. We side on the side of love. We stand for love. We stand for love for all people. We stand for justice and equity for all people. This is an alternative story. In a lot of religious faiths, if you don't believe their faith, then you're out. Here, we have room for everyone. Whatever your beliefs are, we love and support you. We believe that everybody has inherent worth and dignity. It's a birthright. It came with you when you came to the planet. And this is what the America's Founding Fathers believed as well. So my question to you today is, what were the values of the Founding Fathers that led us as Americans to be able to win the Revolutionary War against all odds? I mean, the colonists were not very organized, and yet they beat the biggest army in the world, the strongest navy in the world, against all odds. They won. And I'm wondering, are we still holding those values today, especially as Unitarian Universalists? Because I have to tell you, I'm a little nervous when I watch the direction of leadership that's happening right now in our country. Have you had that feeling? Just a little bit. I think the leadership has told an alternative story. And I don't really see the values of our Founding Father in the story that's going on right now. I wonder if they have lost track of those values. I'm aware that Rome lost track of its values. And after 507 years, it fell. So, if that's the case with America, we're actually okay, because we're only at year 242. And I don't think anybody's going to make it to 507. But it might fall before that if we are not careful what our values are. And I think that we, as Unitarian Universalists, need to stand for those values and live them every day of our life. So let's look at them. One of the biggest values of the Founding Fathers was this concept of future generations. Not just me, right now, but what's going to happen for our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. The American Indians also hold this value of leaving the earth intact for 7 generations to come. It's long-term thinking versus short-term. It's a long-term gratification as opposed to short-term. I want it now. So are you doing that? I'm asking, are you thinking of the future generations? Are you remembering not to use plastic water bottles? Because Americans use 2.5 million plastic water bottles an hour. Hour after hour. So are you remembering, wait a minute, we have to take care of the earth because there are people coming after us that we want it to be intact. Do we want our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren saying, what were you thinking? Or do we want them to say, thank you? Thank you for getting the awareness that we have to take care of the earth. Thank you for not using plastic bags at the grocery store. Thank you for refusing plastic straws. Thank you for taking care of us in the future. That was one of the major values of our founding fathers of America. A second value that they had was courage. They were brave and they were bold, and they stepped out into their fear. Are you doing that? Are you willing to take the next step, even though you're afraid, and do it anyway? Because that's how we beat the odds. That's how we do the impossible. Feel the fear, do it anyway. Show up. Get all in. Really say, I'm fully in. I know I'm a little afraid, but I'm still going to do it. That's how we shift to the alternative story. The Founding Fathers also understood synergy. They understood that two heads are better than one. That if we work together and we put our ideas together, we can really change the world. We can heal it. And I think that means, as far as spreading the word of Unitarian Universalism, that we have to get over arguing with each other and hold on to the bigger picture, the bigger goal, which is peace in the world, justice for everybody, equality for everybody. We can't stop until it's everybody, because we need to keep our focus on our bigger goal. I'll ask you, are you doing that? Or are you nebbing, saying negative things about people, little things that they did this wrong or this wrong, this wrong? Because I hear some of that negative here, and we need to forget the details and really work on the bigger picture. Really get to the point where we're not worried about all the little trees, but we're worried about the forest. How do we heal the world? How do we get to that point where we are not worried about the details? I want to tell you a story about where I got lost in the details for sure. It was with my younger son. When he was in high school, I was really wigged out about that SAT test. I told him, honey, you've got to study. You've got to take one of those courses, the SAT course. This is a big deal in your life. And my son said to me, Mom, I'm going to take that test. I'm going to get a score. Some college is going to take me with that score. And they're going to have some classes. I'm going to take those classes. I'm going to get a degree. I'm going to get a job. At some point, I'm going to get married. I'll have some kids. I'm going to have a good life. And I was like, oh, I think I'm focused on the wrong thing here. I'm focused on a little detail. Who cares what you get on that test? Because you're right. That's going to happen. And so we have to get off the little teeny details and get to the bigger picture of honoring each other and helping our country heal. The last value that our founding fathers seemed to have in spades was this concept of right and wrong, an awareness of morals, an awareness of respecting each other. They believed that every man, whether they were poor or rich, whether they came from a bloodline or they didn't, whether they were educated or not, that every man had the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They believed that if there was going to be justice, it needed to be justice the same for everyone. Now, they didn't get the slavery thing for about 100 more years. And they didn't get the woman thing for about 150 years. And they didn't get the sexual orientation thing for like 200 years. But they got the basic concept that we have to do what is right and we have to do what is fair. Treat everyone with dignity and respect. Are you doing that? Because to me, that's what our faith is about. Not just loving people like us, but loving people not like us. And that means if you are a Democrat, that you need to try to understand the Republicans. And if you are a Republican, then you need to talk to the Democrats. That we need to hear each other and really be present with each other. And can we do this against all odds? Against a leader who seems to be reactionary and call people names, who seems to be impulsive and puts people down, who calls the press the enemy of the state, who seems not to share those values of our forefathers. How can we go up against that odds? Well, I think there are a lot of things that we can do, but we have to start with ourselves. Because if we're saying he and they, we have lost our own moral compass. So we have to be able to see everyone with respect and dignity. Everybody playing their part in this world, this life adventure we're having. Everyone has the right for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is the alternative story, that we think beyond the generation of now, that we be courageous and bold to say our truth out loud, and that we live graciously, keeping aware of what right and wrong, and exercising our emotional intelligence with each other. Because let's face it, America's an amazing place. It's an amazing space. This land from here to here that's beautiful and incredible, has lots of food, lots of water. It's a model for the rest of the world. It's an alternative to corrupt monarchy. And we're just lucky to be born here. So I ask you this morning, what are you doing for America? John F. Kennedy over 50 years ago said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what can you do for your country? And I think there are things we can do for our country. The first thing we can do is pray, which is a really funny word for Unitarian Universalist. Prayer just goes, woo, who would we be praying to? And so a lot of people get off with that word. I'm going to use some other words. We can visualize. We can envision. We can co-create. We can send off energy into the universe saying, we restore our country to perfect health. I know with the little tumor that's in my brain, every day I say, I restore my body to perfect health. Every day I say, I let go of that tumor. I no longer have that. My brain is healthy and strong. We can do that with our country too. That we restore it to perfect health. That we work together. That we send light and wisdom to the people in Congress. Pick somebody out. Send them some light and wisdom. We can send empathy to our leaders, that they are able to embrace and affirm and multiply all the good that's in our country and on the planet. And we can stop sending all that negative energy out into the world. Because we have a better answer to stand on the side of love, to stand on the side of equity, to stand on the side of justice for all. Share what you believe with other people. Don't be afraid to say, yeah, I embrace people of different genders and transgenders and different orientations. And don't be afraid to say, yes, I can see the light in every single person that I meet. Spread the word. The last thing we have to do is let people know our message is love is the deal. Peace on earth is possible, and there are solutions. The second thing we can do for our country is live a life that we're proud of, that's worth living. Be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Show up, contribute, be part of this community. When's the last time you volunteered anywhere? I want you to think about that. When have I given outside of myself recently? Because that's what we need to do, is show up and love other people. Let your light shine, because your light is beautiful. I read some rules for Kate Middleton not too long ago. She's the Duchess of York. Basically, she was told when she was marrying into the family that she needed to always dress modestly, never expose her breasts or show her cleavage. Be humble, be gracious, always accept any gift that anybody gives you. Always represent yourself in such a way that you will not embarrass the royalty. Be selective of your words, not impulsive. In other words, use some emotional intelligence. See the other and help them feel seen. Because she was told, and I believe this about every single one of us, your words impact people. It's only a matter of how. If they're going to be compassionate and loving and kind words, or if they're going to be negative. What if we all did that? We lived humbly. We lived gracefully. Benjamin Franklin did this. As noted on the website Historic Valley Forge, I'm going to read it directly. The plainness of his dress, the simplicity of his personality, and his tact, his agreeableness, and responsiveness were always appreciated. There was nothing haughty about him. Under all conditions, he was a friend of man, a world benefactor, and the representative of a cause which appealed to people all over the world, democracy. He had a wonderful story to tell about the American people who conquered the continent by thrift, endurance, sacrifice, and grit. Franklin was courageous. He was bold and had a definite sense of his vision. He used his emotional intelligence to bring all kinds of people together, all kinds of people to the table. And he had a vision greater than himself. In a letter to Samuel Cooper in 1777, Franklin wrote, "It is a common observation here in Paris that our cause is their cause. It's the cause for mankind, that we are fighting for their liberty as we are defending our own." So to help our country, you can pray, envision. We can live graciously, kindly, using our emotional intelligence to help the other person understand our mission. And lastly, we can tell the truth to whoever will listen, that love is the deal. Love is the greatest force on the planet. Jesus said in 1 Corinthians 13, "And now these three remain, faith, hope, and love, the greatest of which is love." When people tell me their fears, when they tell me their gloom and doom for our country and the world, I simply say, I believe good will win. I believe that love is stronger than evil. It might get bad before it gets worse, but I still think it'll get better, and we will heal this world through our hearts and through our love. You matter in that equation. If you walk in the love vibration, it matters. If you are kind to people that don't deserve it, it matters. If you are compassionate with people's pain, it matters. Who you are, whether you walk in the negative or you walk in the love, it matters. It makes a difference. You are sacred because the greatest of all is love. Blessed be. May it be so. Amen. Thank you. I am grateful and I am humbled, and I want each of you to know I love you, and I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad for your love and support, and it's going to be good. So I charge you to go out this week and take your heart and love as much as you can. Blessed be, and amen.